Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Hunger on the Chisholm Trail by M. Ennenbach. This is from Death's Head Press, and it is number 2 in their Splatter Western series. See, it says right there, a Splatter Western. And today is a special Tuesday edition of the Low Budget Review Show because I just finished this book last night, and I wanted to review it because, spoilers, it's fantastic. What's it about, you ask? Well, it's the first cattle drive of the season, going from, let me look at the back here, Texas for Abilene, along the Chisholm Trail. And in Indian Territory, there's a small town called Duncan, sort of a way station for the cattle drives. But out here in the West, there's something hungry that's going to cause a lot of terror along the trail and in the town of Duncan. So there's your nutshell, I suppose. Anyway, this, man, I love these covers. I've never read anything by Mr. Ennenbach before, and I was blown away. I'm absolutely going to look for more of his stuff. So, we start with a cold open. Do I even talk about what's in the cold open? Some stuff happens. There's something horrible. And then we jump to 3 years later. And we start by following some cowboys who are driving cattle along the Chisholm Trail. And some horrifying things happen to them. We jump to Duncan. There's a guy named Carl Beck who's in in prison for summoning demons, but he talks to the sheriff and they kind of become friends, and he's gonna stick around in the jail till the new sheriff shows up. But, of course, we know that something horrible is going to happen. And for a little bit, we jump back and forth between the cowboys on the trail and what's going on in Duncan, and until everything comes to a head. So, right off the bat, I started reading this, and it took me a little bit to get into Mr. Ennenbach's writing style. As I was going along, every once in a while I'd run into what I felt was some clunky sentence structure, which would make me stumble. But then I'd just keep going, man. I was running through this book. Apparently I'm using running metaphors. Is that the proper term? Because I read this in a day. I did not want to put it down. I started it at lunch at work, and then had to go back to work. But as soon as I got home, I just plowed through this. Despite those clunky sentences that I would run into, it's a compelling story. And I think, again, I haven't read Mr. Ennenbach before, so I can't say about any of his other stuff. But in this book, his biggest strength, in my opinion, was his character work. Carl Beck is a fascinating character. The sheriff, the townspeople, even the cowboys on the trail are just really well written. We get just enough backstory on each of them, and the scenes with people just hanging out and talking and interacting are just as it were, for me anyway, just as enjoyable as the horror scenes. I loved these characters, and which is great. You know, you've got authors that write splatter books, for lack of a better term, since this is a splatter Western. You know, that might put a certain idea into your head, and you're going to have, there are some cannon fodder characters in here, but a lot of authors, I shouldn't say a lot, there are authors who, when writing this type of story, make basically everyone but the one or two main characters into just cannon fodder. We don't need to know too much about them. And I don't think that's the case here. I really, really, really enjoyed these characters. I would love to see more of the characters that survived. So I was reminded of a slasher movie, kind of. Just in the structure, you have what essentially is a cold open. I'm going to take a quick look here, see if it says prologue or anything. No, it just starts summer 1869 Indian Territory. And then we jump to chapter 1 3 years later along the Chisholm Trail. So it's got that cold open where we have something horrible happen. And then we get into the main story. We're meeting our characters. And we've got quiet moments and then building tension and then horrible things happen. And then things quiet down again for us, the reader, not necessarily for all of the characters. Excuse me. And it's a structure that works. Again, it builds that tension. We know that something's coming. It's already on the Chisholm Trail, terrorizing these people, and we know it's headed towards Duncan. And these characters that we're getting to know and we're getting to love are in danger. And the terror in this book is, I'm trying to avoid saying what it is, even though it's essentially revealed in that cold open. It's for you to find out for yourself, but it is something that I always enjoy. I'm a fan of what this is. I'll read pretty much anything, or at least give it a try. Give anything a try that has this thing in it. So, yeah, fantastic book, great story, great characters. I gave it 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I'm throwing up a review on a Tuesday because I just loved it so much. I want to get this review out there. At this point, there's 9 Splatter Westerns that are out. I have not picked up the 9th one yet. This is the 3rd one that I've read. I was planning on reading them all in order, but I jumped ahead to read Kenzie Jennings' The Red Station, which I have reviewed. I'll have a link for that at the end of the video. And when I reviewed the first book, The Magpie Coffin, I believe I said that at that time I didn't think there was any connection between all the books except the fact that they're splatter westerns. Well, there is something in this book that sets up the next book. I don't think that's going to be the case through the entire series, but Mr. Ennenbach is part of a collective, I believe he calls it, that includes Chris Miller and it says in the acknowledgments PC3. I can't remember the author's actual name. Something Harrison III. Patrick? What else would a P be? I don't know. But anyway, so Mr. Ennenbach, Chris Miller, and PC3 are part of this group. And the next Splatter Western, the 3rd one, I'm pretty sure, is by Chris Miller. So there is something in this book that sets up, or at least teases, the next book. And I didn't realize that there's a character that talks about they're going to Dust, Texas. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a book in this series called Dust. I wonder if it's related. So I looked into it, and yes, absolutely related. I don't know if there's anything setting up PC3's book, because he has one later in the series. I want to say when I was looking into this that his was the 6th, but don't take my word for it. I have them all. They're over on a stack right over there, but they're covered by another stack that's in front of them, so I cannot see my other Splatter Westerns. Anyway, that's all neither here nor there. It's nice to have that little tease, but I think it's more of a part of their collective, which is called Cerberus. Cerberus. Yeah, I said it right the first time. They call it Cerberus. Anyway, I think it's more of just these three guys because they work together, and not as a whole that the Splatter Westerns are going to have ties to each other. That has nothing to do with this book itself, just something I wanted to throw out there. So, what else is there to say? Just really, really impressed with this one. I think of the three, this might be my favorite at the moment. I really enjoyed the other two. I believe I gave Kenzie Jennings' book 5 out of 5. I don't remember what I gave The Magpie Coffin, but it was either 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. But I don't know, something, maybe it's my bias, because I love what it is that's in here. And man, the characters are just so good. Loved it. There's just a dinner scene with 4 of the characters sitting around having dinner, and it's fantastic. It's just as good as any other scene in the book. It is violent. It's a splatter western, so of course I love all the violence that's going on, the bloody, gory deaths and things. So it's not for the faint of heart. This isn't extreme levels of horror. It's not Wrath James White or Edward Lee. But it is good and bloody. So that's my somewhat rambling review of Hunger on the Chisholm Trail by M. Ennenbach, a splatter western from Death's Head Press. I'm loving this series. I'd love to talk to the head of Death's Head Press, find out if this series exploded the way they expected it to. I think it's... I know of at least a few other authors that are working on books for this series, and I'd love to see it keep going. As long as, if they're keeping up this quality, I'm along for the ride. Absolutely, can't wait to get the 9th one. Even though I still have, if I do some math, 5 more. The 9th one will make 6 more to read. But I'm in. So, there you have it. Got a little rambly there. If you have any comments, geez, this is what happens when I do this on a Tuesday. I don't know what I'm doing. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comics, games, and occasionally animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ErikSmith 5757. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.